Recording in progress.
Sure, we're all set. Can I have your attention? I'd like to start tonight's meeting. My name is J.P. Boucher. I will be acting as chair for tonight's meeting, September 13th, 2023, of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. This evening's meeting will be conducted in a hybrid format. The meeting is accessible in person in the third floor auditorium of National City Hall at 229 Main Street, and by Zoom at the link posted in all public meeting agendas. Attendance by telephone is available using the Zoom connection details. Minutes of tonight's meeting, as well as the audio and video recordings, will be available later at NashuaNewHampshire.gov Agenda Center. Select Zoning Board of Adjustment. If anyone has a problem accessing the meeting, please call 603-589-3056, and we will be able to help you connect. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via the methods mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. The chair is in control of the proceedings and calls upon all who wish to speak in order, as their raised hands are observed. The board follows the meeting protocols, procedures identified in its bylaws. The applicant will present their case for 15 minutes, followed by questions by the board. Next, persons wishing to speak in favor or with questions or opposition will be asked to speak up to 5 minutes. If there are questions or opposition, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present a response. Finally, one and only one person with questions or in opposition will be permitted to speak again before the board deliberates and determines an outcome. A timer is used to manage the speaking time. Kate Poirier, our zoning board coordinator, will notify us when 1 minute is remaining, and again when the speaker's time is expired. If you are participating by Zoom and you wish to speak when public input is requested, please use the raised hand option, which can be found under Reactions on a computer or the More menu on a phone. The chair will call you in turn. Please use the lower hand option when you have completed your question comment. Please mute your microphone until called on to speak to. Note that all votes are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call. Tonight we will be hearing requests for deviation from the National Zoning Code in the form of applications for special exceptions and variances. A special exception is a request that seeks permission to do something that the zoning ordinance permits only under special circumstances. To grant a special exception, 5 points of law are required to be met. These are outlined in the application and will be summarized in board motions. A variance is a request that seeks permission to do something that the ordinance does not permit. Variances also have 5 points of law to be met, different from those for a special exception. Per the City of Nashua bylaws, the State of New Hampshire revised statutes, a minimum of 3 or more affirmative votes are required to approve any application. In addition, this board will hear all scheduled cases if a quorum of 3 voting board members are present at this meeting. Any citizen has the right to contest the decision that this board makes. Should we render a decision that you believe is an error, you have the right to request a rehearing. A written rehearing request must be received by the City of Nashua Planning Department within 30 calendar days from the date of decision. Should this board not grant a rehearing request, you can file an appeal directly to the New Hampshire Superior Court. Please contact Mr. Falk at the Planning Department for more information. For this meeting, we have the following board members: Mr. Josh Neely, Mr. Jay Mincara, Mr. Stephen Lionel, and again, my name is J.P. Boucher. Also in attendance, we have Mr. Carter Falk, the Deputy Planning Manager, and Ms. Kate Poirier, our Department Coordinator. We'll start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. For any board members, I don't believe there's any board members attended by Zoom. Okay, we'll skip that. Mr. Neely.
Present.
Mr. Mincara.
Present.
Mr. Lionel.
Present.
Mr. Boucher is also present. Excuse me? Who's clerking? Kate's volunteered. Also, if there's any conflict, any board member has a right to recuse themselves. If that happens, I will go over what our direction will be at that time. Mr. Falk, is there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Case number 8, which is at 6 Greenway Street, will be postponed to the September 26th meeting. Will not be heard tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I get started, is there any procedural questions that anybody has in the audience? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to read the first case into record. I'd like to open the public hearing for Matthew and Elizabeth Brindley, owners of 33 Raymond Street, sheet 47, lot 159, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-44 to exceed maximum fence height 6 feet, permitted 8 feet requested for a 12-foot section located along the left side yard. It's in the RA zone, Ward 3. Is anybody here presenting the case? Come on up. Please give us your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Matthew Brindley, and I live at 33 Raymond.
Just tell us what you want to do.
Sure. So we have currently a wooden fence which is rotting and starting to fall in my neighbor's yard. So essentially, we like to take down that 6-foot fence and replace it with a new vinyl fence. The topography on the left side of my yard actually, to keep the current fence line and make it no higher or lower than it currently is, we just want to install 2 8-foot tall sections and slope them down to meet the lower area of the yard, where the fence will continue with 6 feet.
Okay. You all set?
That's it.
Okay.
It's
Is there any
reasonable.
questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience that'd like to speak in favor of this application? Nobody on Zoom? Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? Okay, I have one letter of support for 32 Raymond Street. I'll read that quickly into the record. I own the property directly behind Matthew and Elizabeth Brindley, who reside at 33 Raymond Street. I'm in total support of allowing them a variance for Land Use Code Section 190-44 to exceed maximum fence height, 6 feet permitted, 8 feet requested, for a 12-foot section along left side of the yard. Their current fence is deteriorating and has begun to fall down towards my property. They are willing to replace the fence, but would like this variance so they can also replace the fence on the left side of the yard along the back fence that separates our properties. I hope the board will strongly consider them for the variance. Please notify me if you require any additional information. Christina Giles. Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. I'll start. I'll just say that I am in support of this application. The property does have some unique features. There is some topography issues there, and I think, again, we have support from one of the neighbors, and I think that it actually benefits both neighbors. So I don't see any reason why I would not support this application, and I feel that it meets all the requirements. Mr. Lino?
I support the application.
Mr. McCarron?
I also support the application.
Mr. Neely?
And I support the application for the reasons stated by yourself.
Is there anybody who would like to make a motion?
I'll do it. I'd like to make a motion on behalf of the owners, Matthew and Elizabeth Brindley, 33 Raymond Street, sheet 47, lot 159, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-44 to exceed maximum fence height, 6 feet permitted, 8 feet requested, for a 12-foot section located along the left side yard. This is in the RA zone, Ward 3. The board finds that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property, given that that's the topography of the lot, and the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. The board believes this is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. It will not adversely affect the property values of surrounding parcels. We have a letter in support from the neighbor that is most directly affected. The board believes this is not contrary to public interest and substantial justice would be served. So I make a motion to approve this area variance.
Seconded by Mr. Neely. Do I have any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take Mr. Neely.
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
Mr. McCarron.
Mr. McCarron votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel.
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Mr. Boucher also votes in favor. The variance passes 4-0. Congratulations, your application has been approved. Again, just keep in mind that there is a 30-day window of appeal. Thank you very much. With that, I'll close the public meeting for case number 1 and open the public meeting for case number 2. Just so you know, sir, it's up to you if you stay, but you don't have to stay. All right, thank you. Case number 2 is for Louise and Joe Pear, owner of 3 Forest Park Drive, sheet 50, lot 4, requesting a special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-112 to work in the 40-foot critical wetland buffer of Hasselbrook to remove up to 5 trees in the rear yard, R9 zone, Ward 6. Is anybody here to present that case? Come on up, just give us your name and address and tell us what you want to do.
Hi, I'm Louise Perret,
And I'm Joe Beret.
3 Forest Park Drive.
Please try to speak into the microphone so everybody can hear
If
you.
you want to pull it out, you can pull it out.
Yeah. Yep, no, you can do that. You can hold it.
So we just want to take down 5 trees, tall, huge pine trees that are towering over our house. They are in the wetlands buffer, but with the weather lately, the rain, torrential rain, we just think that they're weakening the roots of the pine trees, and we're afraid they're going to fall on our house or our neighbor's house or our grandchildren. So we're just asking permission to take them down before they do fall down, because the root systems in pine trees are not very deep. So and every time the wind blows and there's a storm, we're just afraid they're going to come down. Do you have anything?
This started back in March or in April, early spring. I came home one day and all of a sudden I see this tree that crushed my fence and almost hit my house from the wetland area that was in back. And it just missed our house by about 5 feet. There were branches that actually landed on the roof. So this was due to, as my wife was saying, high winds, heavy rains, and the shallow root system of pine trees, as you know. But one of the other major facts is that you probably know that there's a huge beaver dam in the area where we live, over in Hasselbrook. Not yet. Is that Hassel? No, that's Hasselbrook. Right where Elmont Street is, where Bishop Girton is, right in that area. It's about 50 yards away from our house. And I've lived here all my life. I've never, ever in my life have seen it be that bad before as far as the way the water has risen. I asked the committee before us if they could do something about that beaver dam, take the beaver dam out, but they were saying it was going to be a big hassle in relocating the beavers, but without I know they put in the water gate. I mean, the water rises tremendously high. And like I said, I've never seen that before. With the gate, it will go down slowly, but if the beaver dam was never there, we wouldn't have this problem. So I've also asked if somebody could look into going down to the beaver dam and see if beavers actually still live there. But I don't know if that is actually being done. If it isn't, then just take it out. Even if the beavers live there, I mean, you can take the beavers and put them somewhere else. The bottom line is I had a tree that almost crashed through our house. If a tree hits the house can be replaced. But the big thing is, especially these big pine trees that are in our house, if something happens and that hits our house and is our grandchildren and us, family, take out a life, our lives are, I mean, there's nothing that supersedes human life. And that's what it comes down to. We like these trees removed. We don't want any life loss. Like I said, houses and stuff like that can be replaced. But the bottom line is I don't want something that could happen to anybody who's in the house. And that was just a wake-up call when that tree nearly missed our house. I ended up taking care of it myself, but I kind of think that was on city property. But I mean, that's a different story. But that's the main reason why we want these trees removed, and just to make sure that everything's out of the way, and hopefully there won't be any more loss of life if they do fall. Okay? That's it.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Minkara?
I'm assuming you've seen the letter from the Conservation Commission.
Yes, we did.
Among their recommendations are that 2 of the trees would be stumped a height of 14 feet or more. Are you comfortable with that recommendation?
Is it possible that we could negotiate, like, I'd rather see something like 5 to 10 feet instead of 14? I think 14 is still pretty high. What do you think? No, I'm just.
Thank you for the response.
Yeah, I think it's still pretty high. I'm willing to go like between 5 and 10 feet. I think that's pretty good. I mean, if it's 14, then it's 14, but I'd rather see something.
Now, I'm not sure we can discuss, we can say anything about that. The Conservation Commission says 14 feet or more.
Mr. Lionel, all I believe is that they make a recommendation. There have been a few times where we've not taken one of the recommendations or changed something, so we can discuss that.
Yeah, okay.
But I think we have that ability to do that.
All right.
So we'll discuss that amongst ourselves when it comes time. But thanks for, telling us what you'd really like. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, you're all set for now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak in support of this application? Ma'am, come on up and give us your name and address, please. And just speak in the mic if you can, please.
I'm actually the next case, but I'm their neighbor, and
What's
I
your name-
can't.
what's your name and address?
Jeanette Katopoulos. I live at 7 Forest Park Drive.
Okay.
And the trees that they are requesting to remove are very top-heavy, and I can really relate to the fact that they would be concerned that they may fall on the house. The tree that fell in the spring was in the wetlands, but behind my house, and actually reached over to their house. That's how tall these trees are. So they can cause quite a bit of damage. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions to this? Is anybody else like to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, anybody like to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition to this application? Is there anybody on Zoom? No. Nobody on Zoom? Okay, I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. I'll start again. I think this is a pretty straightforward case. This is a neighborhood I'm familiar with. I live in the Bishop Burton neighborhood. I walk this area, and I notice that, there's a lot of trees in that wetlands area that are very tall, like I said, and top heavy, so I recognize that, and as you look at it, I think the applicant really put a good picture on what's going on over there, so I will support the application. So I know.
I support the application. I understand their preference to stump the trees a bit lower. Certainly interested in discussion about that. But other than that, I don't have any problems with their request.
Mr. McCarroll?
I do support the application. I think they've made a good case that the trees are a hazard, so they do need to come down. I'm not sure I'm comfortable deciding whether they should be stumped at 4 feet, 5 feet, 1 feet, or 14 feet. But I'm certainly open to that discussion.
Mr. Neely?
Yeah, I'm in support of this application as well for safety concerns. I mean, you certainly can see they're definitely top-heavy. One quick drive-by, and you can see exactly why they're asking to have these taken down. As far as the recommendations of the Conservation Commission, I'm open for discussion. I can go either way. I can hear what the applicant is saying. I thought 14 feet was pretty high. I had not seen one that had that type of stipulation before, but I'm open for conversation if we need to discuss that. But in general, I'm in favor of this application.
Okay. I'll just say again, I don't usually, I think the Conservation Commission has a great value. I think they're very in tune to what they're looking at. Again, not to pick hairs, and like you, Mr. McCarroll, the height is, I don't think there's anything that was presented to me that would say one height would be better than the other. So I think it's more probably an aesthetic type thing, and I would be comfortable if anybody made a motion to amend that height, I would support it. So this is where I'm coming from. So,
Mr. Chair,
sorry.
Mr. Chair, I wrote the Conservation Commission minutes, so I listened to their discussion, and the reason they had for the 14-foot height was for bird nesting.
Bird nesting, okay.
Yeah, the draft minutes say, Commissioners discussed the possibility of keeping about 15 feet of stump on each tree for wildlife habitat. Tall stumps for use as snags would fit into the landscape since other snags currently exist in the buffer. Both homeowners seemed agreeable to this. I'm not sure what snags means in this context.
I'm assuming it means trees that have probably fallen over time and left a stump that large, I would guess. But that's a guess.
So,
I'll make a motion.
do you want to make a motion?
I make a motion to grant the request of Louise and Joe Perry, owners of 3 Forest Park Drive, requesting a special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-112 to work in the 40-foot critical wetlands buffer of Haskell's Brook to remove up to 5 trees in the rear yard. We find that the use is listed in the table of uses. It will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. It will not overload public water, drainage, sewer, or other municipal systems. The special regulations are fulfilled, and I do note that we do have the special regulations in the packet that are signed by the owner, presumably attesting to their acceptance of them. It will not impair integrity or be out of character with the neighborhood or be detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare of the residents. And I would add that the recommendations of the Conservation Commission, as noted in their letter of August 7th, 2023, would be conditions of that approval.
Anybody? Mr. Neely, second by Mr. Neely. Any discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Neely?
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
Mr. McCarroll?
Mr. McCarroll votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Mr. Boucher also votes in favor. Congratulations, your application's been approved. Thank you very much. With that, I'll close the public meeting for case number 2 and open the public hearing for case number 3. I'm sorry, right now, we can't take any questions, but I would ask you to call the planning department, Mr. Falk and Mr. Poirier tomorrow. It's just following our rules. Okay. Case number 3, I'll read it into the record. It's for Jeanette T., and I apologize if I don't pronounce your last name correctly, Kotopoulos, Living Trust, 7 Forest Park Drive, sheet 50, lot 6, requesting special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-112 to work in the 40-foot critical wetland buffer of Haskell's Brook to remove 2 trees in the rear yard. It's in the R9 zone, Ward 6. Come on up, and again, just give us your name and address again for the record. And just tell us what you want to do.
My name is Jeanette Kotopoulos. I live at 7 Forest Park Drive, and I'm neighbor to Joe and Louise Parr. I have 2 trees that are in the wetland buffer behind my house that are also very tall. They're top-heavy, and my concern is that they have the same characteristics as the tree that did fall in the spring, and I would like to address that before we have any accident that might damage a house or injure someone. I am willing to follow what the Conservation Commission has recommended in terms of addressing this. Thank you.
Okay, hold on for a minute. Any questions for the applicant? No. You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Is there anybody else who would like to speak in favor of the application? Okay, and just your name and address, please. Thank you for the record.
Joe Perret, 3 Forest Park Drive. I am in favor of doing this for the reasons that Mrs. Katopoulos has stated. As she pointed out, the tree that fell and crushed my fence and almost hit my house is in the general same area as the trees that she wants taken down, and I approve this. Thank you.
Any questions there? No. Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, anybody else would like to speak with questions, concern, or opposition to the application? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Again, I'm going to support this application really for the same reasons as the previous application. Mr. Lionel?
I support the application.
Mr. Minkara?
I also support the application.
Mr. Neely?
And I also support the application, basically on safety concerns for the house.
Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll do it. Let's see, this is case number 3. That's right. I'd like to make a motion on behalf of Jeanette Katopoulos Living Trust. Address is 7 Forest Park Drive, sheet 50, lot 6, requesting special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-112 to work in the 40-foot critical wetland buffer of Hassel's Brook to remove 2 trees in the rear yard. This is in the R9 zone, Ward 6. This is listed in the table of uses. The board believes it will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. They will have no effect on public water, drainage, sewer, or other municipal systems. Special regulations are fulfilled. The applicant has agreed to the conditions specified by the Conservation Commission and the wetland special conditions. And this will not impair integrity or be out of character with the neighborhood or be detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare of residents. So I make a motion to approve the special exception.
Seconded by Mr. Minkara. I think you beat Mr. Neely. Any discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Neely?
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
Mr. Minkara?
Mr. Minkara votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
And Mr. Boucher votes in favor. Congratulations, your application has been approved. Thank you very much for coming. With that, I'll close the public meeting for case number 3 and open the public hearing for case number 4. I'll read case number 4 into the record. Dale and George H. Fenton, 15 Cliff Drive, Sheet B, Lot 1820, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 1A-16, Table 16-3 to encroach up to 2 feet into the 30-foot required rear yard setback to construct a 16 by 20-foot deck. It's in the R9 zone, Ward 9. Anybody here to present the application? Come on up and, again, just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is George Fenton. I live at 15 Cliff Road. Presently, putting an addition at my house, a garage with an entranceway. And where the garage was where I previously had a deck. It was 16 feet wide. I would like to keep that 16 feet, and it goes into the 30-foot encroachment by 2 or 3 feet. So that's the variance I'm looking for. And I would also like to run the stairs off the back third of that encroachment.
And the stairs aren't really an issue.
Stairs don't count as,
even though if they're in the setback, the stairs are not considered an issue. Is that correct?
So that's no problem with that?
Yeah, there's no issue with the stairs. Your application is accurate here. You can have stairs going out into the back, it's fine.
Okay.
Into the setback.
All right, that's my situation.
Okay, hold on for a minute. Are there any questions for the applicant? Mr. Minkara?
Did you consider a shallower deck, less than 14 feet?
What do you mean by shallower? In height or width?
It's the width of the deck that
I did
encroaches
consider
in the
it,
setback.
but I previously had a 16-foot deck and would like to keep basically the same arrangement that I had on the deck.
You all set, Mr. Kara? Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
I
Okay.
guess I have a question.
Mr. Lyon.
I mean, I see and I remember that back in May, you applied for a variance to build the garage. Did you not intend to build the deck at that time?
I did, but the problem was between myself and the contractor. We thought we had 30 feet back there. We didn't realize it was just 28. So that's why I had to take another step with another variance. I would have done it all the first time had I known.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, sir. Anybody else in the audience like to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, anybody like to speak with questions, concerns with this application? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. I remember this case when we approved it. I'm in favor of the deck. This is the reason. There's only a corner of the deck that's really encroaching. It's that one angle where the 28 feet is, but it goes back to the setback. So it's not a full encroachment. And the other reason too is again, I don't believe that this really impacts anybody. You won't see this really from the street. And again, yes, maybe the deck could be shallower, but I think that that it's a reasonable request to have, especially, and again, as the applicant testified, that there was an existing deck that was larger there, which I could see through older GIS pictures. And again, they're just looking for the enjoyment of their yard, and that's what they were requesting. So again, the reasons are, there's a corner of it that will encroach, not the whole deck, and I don't think it's obtrusive to any other neighbors or anything. So with that, I'm going to support the application. Ms. Lionel?
I'll support the application and for the reasons Mr. Boucher stated.
Mr. McCara?
I will support the application. I'll admit to struggling a little because it pretty clearly could be reduced without making it unusable, but at the same time, the encroachment, it is very minor. It is consistent with what was once there, and it doesn't appear to have any adverse impact on any of the surrounding properties.
Mr. Neely?
I'm also in favor of the application. This is certainly within the character of the neighborhood. We did not hear any neighbor opposition from the side or the back lot, and the lot is odd-shaped. So I'm in favor of this application.
Thank you. Anybody like to make a motion? Mr. McCara?
I make a motion to grant the variance request of Dale and George Fenton, owners of 15 Cliff Drive, Sheet B, Lot 1820, requesting a variance from Land Use Code Section 19016, Table 16.3, to encroach up to 2 feet into the 30-foot required rear setback to construct a 16 by 20 deck. It's in the R9 zone in Ward 9. We find that the variance is necessary to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property, namely being the somewhat unusual size of the property, the fact that there was a deck there of similar size, and that the use of a deck is normal, customary in this neighborhood. We find that it is within the spirit of intent of the ordinance, that it will not adversely affect property values of surrounding parcels. We had no testimony expressing any concern from abutters. It's not contrary to the public interest, and substantial justice would be done.
Second by Mr. Neely. Any discussion? Seeing none, take a vote. Mr. Neely?
Mr. Neely's in favor?
Mr. McCarroll?
Mr. Mancara is in favor.
Mr. Lionel?
Mr. Lionel's in favor.
Mr. Boucher is also in favor. Congratulations, the application has been approved. Again, just be aware that there is a 30-day window of appeal. Thank you very much. With that, I'll close the public meeting for case number 4 and open the public hearing for case number 5.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night. Case number 5, I'll read into the record for Jean F. and John L. Levesque, Revocable Trust, Lynn Lynch, applicant, 34 Vieques Drive, Sheet B, Lot 1169, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 19-17, Section E, subsection 1, to exceed maximum driveway width 24 feet permitted, 24 feet existing on left side of lot, requesting to repave an existing non-conforming 10-foot wide driveway on right side of lot for a total driveway width of 34 feet, see R18 Zone 18. Just give us your name and address, please.
My name is Jean Levesque.
Sorry.
Am I on?
Yes.
My name is Jean Levesque. I live at 34 Vieques Drive.
I'm his daughter, Lynn Lynch. I live in Merrimack, New Hampshire, but I'm here to assist.
We're a team.
All right. Go ahead, tell us what you'd like to do.
Okay.
So basically, I'm asking for a variance to make a final connection from the end of my existing gravel driveway to the city pavement in the street. And I understood at the time that I may have had an acceptance for some reason to continue paving that section to connect to the main street, but apparently it was not so. I wasn't aware of it. Now, the reason basically I'm asking is because of, that was a temporary drive at one time, constructed of gravel and stone dust. And that was when my wife had a knee operation, and it was easier for me to bring her into the house, at the end of the house, to get into the kitchen with groceries and things of that nature. Since then, it's become a real asset to have that gravel drive up the side. But since then, with the monsoon season that we've had, it's been difficult trying to keep it in place. So that's why I intend paving that area up to the street requirement. And the variance would be, I guess, to continue the pavement to the roadway existing now. And that's about it. Our old age, for my wife and I'm 91, I'm going to be 91 this November. And it's difficult for me to get around since I've just had a recent operation on my back for spinal stenosis. And my wife has had similar issues where she had knee replacement. And the easy part was having that drive at that time to bring her close to the house and do the things that we have to do. And that's about my request.
Okay. I have a question. In looking at your property, it appears that that driveway has been there for a long time.
It's been there for a long time.
Yeah, I was looking back, I believe, to the mid-2000s at least. Yeah, so it's been there 15 years plus? Okay.
Basically just driving on the grass and then
Right.
eventually putting some stone dust
Right.
down.
Right. Okay.
Well, I drove initially when my wife came home from her knee operation, I found it easy to deposit her at the kitchen level, which is a higher elevation. And since then, at that time, I was driving up and down the grassway, and it was ruddy and messy and so forth, so.
But it's
that's
been
why I
in
grabbed
use
it.
as a driveway for many years now, as a formal driveway.
An accessory, actually,
Yeah,
it's an
right.
accessory driveway. He
Yes.
has
Right.
used both up until the last.
No traffic other than just my wife and I.
All right, thank you.
Okay?
Any questions, other questions? Okay, I think we're all set for now. You can sit down.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience that'd like to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none. Anybody with questions, concerns, or opposition to this application? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. The driveway seems to appear to have been the driveway in its form, or a little bit different form. It seems to have been there for a while. Having looked at some of the GS maps from the city, it looks like there was some use there. I also think that the use is, as described by the applicant, it does have some value for safety reasons and their ability to, the mobility reasons to enter the home. So with that, I'll move on. Mr. Lano?
Yeah, my general view on driveway width variances is not positive. And I'll note that variances run with the land, and so if we approve this variance, then it will basically be permanent. However, that driveway has been there for a long time. Its use is a perfectly plausible one, and I don't think it would benefit the city any to allow that driveway, which is technically a driveway, whether it connects to the city pavement or not, anything within the right-of-way is considered a driveway. So I will approve the variance.
Mr. McCarroll?
I think I echo Mr. Lano's comments, to stress that variances run with the land. They're not personal to the individual, so the circumstances of the individual aren't a factor. What inclines me to support this is the fact that it's simply been there for over 10 years. At least there's been no enforcement. There's been no complaints that we're aware of, so there doesn't appear to be any adverse impact, and it's effectively become a condition of the property. So I support it for those reasons.
Mr. Neely?
I also support the application for the reasons as stated by my colleagues.
Anybody like to make a motion?
All right, I'll do it. Yeah. Mr. Neely, you're allowed to make motions,
No, Mr. Lionel, I'm ready.
Okay, we'll let you get the next one. I'd like to make a motion on behalf of the Jean F. and Jean L. Levesque Revocable Trust. Applicant is Lynn Lynch. Address is 34 Vieques Drive, Sheet B, Lot 1169. Requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-17, E1, to exceed maximum driveway width, 24 feet permitted, 24 feet existing on left side of lot. Requesting to repave an existing non-conforming 10-foot wide driveway on the right side of the lot for a total driveway width of 34 feet. And this is the R18 zone, Ward 8. The board finds that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given that this driveway has been in its non-conforming and non-paved state for at least 10 years, if not longer. And the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. The board had some discussion about variances running with the land and not personal, but we do believe this is within spirit and intent of the ordinance. We have no testimony that it will adversely affect the property values of surrounding parcels. It is not contrary to public interest, and substantial justice would be served. So I make a motion to approve this area variance.
Seconded by Mr. Neely. Any discussion? Take the roll. Mr. Neely?
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
Mr. McCarroll?
Mr. McCarroll votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
And Mr. Boucher votes in favor. Congratulations, the application has been approved. Just again, remember that there is a 30-day window of appeal, but have a good night. Thank you very much. With that, I'll close case number 5 and open case, I'll close the public meeting for case number 5 and open the public hearing for case number 6. I'll read that into the record. It's for Richard and Elizabeth Cochran, 3 Cheshire Street, Sheet F, Lot 269, request variance from Land Use Code Section 190-31 to encroach 3 feet into the 6-foot required rear yard setback to construct a 12-by-12 shed in the R9 zone, Ward 1. Please give us your name and address, please, for the record.
Richard A. Corcoran, 3 Cheshire Street, Nashua, New Hampshire. The shed was there. I tore it down this year because it was coming down by itself. So I took it down to the foundation that was there, and I started rebuilding another shed right on that one. And someone made me aware that there was a variance that would be needed. All I was doing was putting up another shed at the same location. In the process, I found out that we were 3 feet into the borderline, so therefore I had to get a variance. So I'm asking for a variance for that reason, and with the knowledge that that shed had been there since I bought the house in 1988. So it's been a while, and I was just replacing it, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay. Anything else?
No, at this point, I have it half-built, and to remove it, I'd have to start all over again and remove the foundation and everything and move it, so it would be an expense that I wasn't really anticipating.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant, Mr. Neely?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Can I say one more thing? I gave a letter saying that my 3 neighbors that are joined
I will read that into the record.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Mr. Neely has a question
ahead.
for you.
What's the height of the new shed?
I think it's 10 and a half feet, 10 to 12 feet.
You all set, Mr. Neely?
I am.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. Are there anybody else here with support for this application? Okay, I'll read the letter that's in support of this application. It says, "Dear Zoning Board member, in addition to the notices that you passed to my neighbors about my request for variance, I personally went to those neighbors right around the property to make sure that they would be hearing about the variance. Those listed below said they have no problems with it." And again, this letter was sent by the applicant, and we have three neighbors here that signed this letter here in support. Mr. Peter M. Janis of 12 Tilton Street, Janice and Jesse Palmer of 1 Cheshire Street, and Timothy Darnsney of 5 Cheshire Street. Is there anybody here who would like to speak with question, concerns, or opposition to this application? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and open the public meeting. I'm in support of the application. Definitely was a shed there existing by evidence of the GIS information that we have available to us with City of Nashua site. And again, just rebuilding an exacting spot. Nobody has a problem. We get some support. I don't see any issues why I would not grant the application. I'll be in support of it. Mr. Lionel?
I support the application.
Mr. Mancara?
I support the application also, and would just note a 12 by 12 shed is certainly reasonable in terms of use, and there are multiple other sheds that encroach similarly in the surrounding area.
Mr. Neely?
I'm also in favor of this application. As Mr. Minkara said, there's quite a few sheds in that neighborhood that are of the same character, definitely in the rear setbacks. I was interested to hear if the folks at 12 Tilton were going to show up here tonight, because that's certainly the shed towers a little over their tree line, but without their opposition, I'm fully in favor of this application.
Okay. Anybody like to make a motion? Mr. Neely?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance for owner Richard and Elizabeth Corcoran, address 3 Cheshire Street, sheet F, lot 269. They're requesting a variance from Land Use Code, section 190-31, to encroach 3 feet into the 6-foot required rear yard setback to construct a 12 by 12 shed. This is in the R9 zone, Ward 1. The variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property. The board finds that there was a shed there previously. It was removed due to rot. The homeowner did testify that they have built exactly in the same footprint where the original shed was. In addition, the board finds that that is consistent with that neighborhood based on the number of other sheds around the neighborhood that are also in a similar position on their properties. The benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. The board finds that this is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We have no testimony that this will adversely affect the property values of the surrounding parcels. This is not contrary to public interest, and substantial justice would be served to the homeowner.
Anybody second it? Mr. Micara, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, take the roll. Mr. Neely?
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
Mr. Micara?
Mr. McCarr votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
And Mr. Boucher votes in favor. Congratulations, your application has been approved. Again, just be aware that there is a 30-day window of appeal. Thank you very much. Have a good night. With that, I'll close the public meeting for case number 6 and open the public hearing for case number 7. I'll read that into the record now. The Mott Family Revocable Living Trust, Frederick J. Mott, trustee, owner, Spencer Tate, Meridian Land Services applicant, 45 Roy Street, sheet 107, lot 14, requesting a special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-112 to work in the 75-foot prime wetland buffer of Salmon Brook to allow for a restoration mitigation plan with shrubs and trees after trees were removed in the wetland buffer. It's in area zone Ward 6. Congratulations.
Good evening.
You give us name and address, please?
So my name is Dan Hawley. I live at 39 Branch Road in Ware, New Hampshire, but today I'm representing Frederick Mott over at 45 Roy Street. So the site is at 45 Roy Street, map 107, lot 14, situated entirely at Nashua. Surrounding land use is developed urban residential. It's just a few streets down from Bishop Girton High School, and it sits site abuts the wetlands surrounding Salmon Brook. So vegetation found in this area includes red oak, eastern white pine, high bush blueberry. This wetland is classified as prime, giving it a 75-foot prime wetland setback. Parcel contains about 0.8 acres, and the house was built in 1986. The homeowner expressed, out of concerns for safety, health of some of the trees, and interest in aesthetics, that a tree company had been hired to remove some of these trees within the buffer. Impacts were reserved only for within the buffer. None of the wetland itself was impacted. All the stumps remain. Both Fred and this company were unaware of the permit requirements involved in taking these trees down until receiving a violation. Meridian received a call from Fred later on in interest of starting a restoration project to restore the functions lost within this buffer. We began the project with an extensive survey of the property, including the location, sizes, and species of the trees that were removed. And after determining that these wetlands were prime due to the Salmon Brook, we established the exact extent of that 75 prime wetland buffer and its associated impact. Proposed is the planting of 13 trees and 48 shrubs, as well as a meadow mix in actually a plan that I brought today was part of the stipulations from the Conservation Commission. Only hand tools are to be used. No machinery is to be used, specifically no heavy machinery. So this is going to be all de minimis construction techniques, which allow for it to be done all with hand tools, and there should be no further ground disturbances. We're using avoidance and minimization strategies to, again, further avoid disruptions in the buffer. We've received favorable recommendation from the Conservation Commission after a site walk on July 18th and meetings on July 5th and August 1st. Denial of the project would result in the failure to restore this wetland buffer. Stipulations include, from the Conservation Commission, the implementation of a meadow mix, monumentation at the edge of the wetland buffer, and no earth moving activities inside the buffer. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Any questions for the applicant? just want to find out if you are reiterating the conformance to the wetland special conditions.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're all set for now.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody here with support for this application? Seeing none. Anybody with questions, concerns for this application? Seeing none, I will first read into the record a letter that we received for 45 Roy Street. My name is Joseph McIntyre. I live with my wife Denise at 40 Roy Street. I am the next-door neighbor to Fred and Diane. Please accept my file comments as I cannot attend the meeting tonight. The Motts have been good neighbors to us and citizens of Nashua. I believe that they will honor their plan to mitigate previous tree cutting. They will take the responsible steps needed to restore the project and affected Salmon Brook wetlands and buffers city in their plan. In addition, I put my trust in any additional meeting comments, recommendations, etc., made by my former college classmate Carter Falk, Nashua's DPM zoning administrator. He's truly one of Nashua's best servants. It's very nice. Okay. With that, I'll close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Again, I'm going to support the application. Obviously, the applicant, for whatever reason, whether it didn't seem to be on purpose, had some trees removed, probably for the same reasons that we had other applications around Salmon Brook here tonight. And obviously, we're a little too aggressive in that task. So I will support the application for the recommendations by the Conservation Commission to restore the buffer. Mr. Lino?
I support the application. I find the whole issue very distressing. And this is yet another instance of a contractor either I believe willingly choosing to ignore city regulations that they probably are aware of, but they just want the money. We see the same thing with paving contractors. Given that the damage was already done, the Conservation Commission has stipulated a plan to replace the buffer, and I would approve that.
Mr. McCarron?
I also support the application. I mean, pretty clearly, the damage was done, and this is a mitigation measure, and necessarily, in order to implement the mitigation measures, you have to work within the wetland buffer, and it appears that what's proposed is, being done in concert with the Conservation Commission. So I support the application.
Mr. Neely?
I am also in favor of the application. These folks are basically, in my opinion, righting it wrong, but they're going above and beyond to do so. No machinery, hand tools. They're stipulating what they're going to do what the Conservation Commission has asked for. So there's no reason, in my opinion, not to approve this special exemption.
Thank you. Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Do we have a record that the applicant agreed to the wetland special conditions? I didn't spot it.
Yes.
It is in here?
It's if you go 3 pages in from the back.
Okay, very good, thank you. I'd like to make a motion on behalf of Mott Family Revocable Living Trust, Frederick Mott trustee. Applicant is Spencer Tate, Meridian Land Services. Address is 45 Roy Street, sheet 107, lot 14, requesting special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-112 to work in the 75-foot prime wetland buffer of Salmon Brook to allow for a restoration mitigation plan with shrubs and trees after trees were inappropriately removed in the wetland buffer. This is in the RA Zone Ward 6. The board finds this is listed in the table of uses. We have no evidence that it will create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. It will not overload public water, drainage, or sewer or other municipal systems. Special regulations are fulfilled. The applicant has agreed to the special conditions for this special exception. And The work will not impair integrity or be out of character with the neighborhood or be detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare of residents. So make a motion to approve the special exception.
Seconded by Mr. McCara.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, any discussion? Yes.
I wonder if I could just suggest that we would add as a condition that has to comply with the Conservation Commission recommendations as clarified in the email from Deb Chisholm to Carter Falk and Kate Purrier dated August 18, 2023.
I accept that amendment to the motion, and you seconded it, right? So you would
I'll accept the second.
approve that?
Okay, as noted.
Did our clerk get all of that? Okay, very good.
We'll take a roll call. Mr. Neely?
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
Mr. McCara?
Mr. McCara votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
And Mr. Boucher votes in favor. Congratulations, your application for special exception has been approved. Thank you very much for coming. With that, I'll close the public meeting for case number 7. I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break before we go to the next case. All right, so we're in recess for 5 minutes. to order. Okay, I think we're all set. I'd like to open the public hearing for the next case, which is for Principessa Realty Partners, LLC owner Josh Becker, B&A Property Preservation, LLC applicant, 7 Sherman Street, sheet 59, lot 9, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-17, Section B, to exceed maximum number of principal structures allowed per lot, 1 permitted, 4 new detached single-family units proposed, with 1 existing, for a total of 5 single-family detached homes on 1 lot. It's in the RA Zone, Ward 2. Please give us your name and address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Chris Gaida, and I'm a certified wetland scientist and soil scientist with Fieldstone Land Consultants, and working with Josh Becker on the infill development on this piece of property. It has 1 existing, I think you have everything in your packet, but there's 1 existing dwelling here.
Excuse me. You can either hold the mic or you can't, just so we pick it up for the record.
Thank you. Is it coming through? So there's an existing dwelling right here in the corner. The property boundary is outlined in blue. The orange here is the setbacks, and these are the proposed units right now. Again, the variance we're requesting is for more than 1 principal building on the lot. Whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 is going to basically be a planning board issue. This will be going to the planning board afterwards, basically address all those other questions and criteria. So I think the big takeaway is that we meet all the requirements of the city as far as setback requirements, density, and all those purposes. And we're really just looking for that more than 1 principal dwelling on the lot. It's something that's, from what I understand, is fairly common request. I have a couple of quick examples from other projects that have had similar requests. As everybody knows, there's a huge housing shortage right now. Everybody is kind of screaming for houses. So we felt with a lot of work that this is going to be, looking at other options, that this was the best option that utilized the property, as well as allowed for enough area with the proposed drive for that dwellings, which is similar to the neighborhood and the other houses around. I can read the criteria into the record if you wish. It gets a little bit long-winded, obviously, but.
Well, we have your record, unless any of the members want to hear it. We have your application, and we're pretty familiar with it, so sure, you can choose what to do at this point.
I'll abstain from reading that for the moment, but happy to answer any questions associated with that.
Mr. Lino.
You stated that the plan as proposed meets all of the setback requirements, but I don't believe that's true. Units 2, 4, and 5 don't meet the rear yard setback requirement. They use a 10-foot side yard setback, but for things that are rear yards. I would say that Unit 1 probably doesn't meet the rear yard setback either with the new plan. Can you comment?
So, yeah, sure. I'm not really sure. I mean, this is 1 lot, right? So 1 lot with the frontage here. So the front, the rear here, and the sides. So I guess I'm not really sure where you mean that they don't meet the rear
They don't meet the setbacks for between the houses and the
okay,
lot
so,
line.
yep, so this is again, it's a single lot. This is a condominium subdivision. These are not lot lines. These are limited common areas. This is 1 single lot. It's going to remain 1 single lot. This plan could be depicted in a number of ways. In fact, the most common ways now with condominiums is to not even show these limited common areas because it does cause confusion. Really, all that is basically this unit has use of typically, it would be described in the deed of a driveway, let's say a deck and a walkway for exclusive use of, let's say, Unit 2. That's really it. So these are not lot lines which do not have setbacks applied to them.
I understand that, and I'll retract my comment about Unit 1, but the 2, 4, and 5, clearly those are rear yards of those units, and the ordinances require 30-foot.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree. I mean, this is a side of this lot, this is a side setback.
Well,
I mean,
the way the houses are being proposed to place on it, that changes how this is. You can't just magically turn this one lot into a thing with five houses on it.
Yeah,
and not do with the setbacks. I understand that you may not be, your expertise may not be in this area, but the research I've done has suggested that don't meet the setback requirements.
Okay, I respectfully disagree, or my understanding is that this is a side setback of the lot, regardless of what orientation the house is at. I mean, the house could turn, the house could be at an angle. Every other lot and setbacks are applied from the frontage, to the best of my knowledge, on the street, the rear offsetting that, and the sides on the sides, which is what we're showing here. So, again, happy to do some more research. I did talk about this extensively with other folks in our office, the surveyors as well as engineers, which is one of the reasons why we also looked at some of these other plans that were approved with almost exactly the same situation. With this plan here has a 10-foot setback shown, and it's a side yard, and it's at the rear of these buildings.
Well, that plan is not under discussion right now. Did you discuss this with the city development department, community development department?
I don't understand the question.
Did you discuss this with Mr. Falk, Ms. Poirier, and their staff?
They're certainly aware of it, yes, but I mean.
Do they agree with your position?
I am not certain.
Thank you.
Mr. McCarroll.
Did you consider a conventional subdivision design?
We did, yes. The issue with this lot, which is outlined in the criteria for the variance, is obviously it's elongated so that the long access basically effectively has shorter frontage. So in order to utilize this, basically you're not going to be able to utilize, you don't have the frontage here to have that type of density on the property. And that given the soil types and the slopes and the area and the separation from houses, we felt that this was the best use of the property.
But did you consider a configuration that would have a Class 5 road, a public street, versus a private road?
I believe we looked into a number of options as far as the design. This one was one that yielded the most favorable amount of dwellings for the property.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I think we're all set for now?
Okay.
All right, thank you. So, I'm going to now ask for comments on the application. So we'll keep this orderly. I know there's a lot of folks here that want to speak on this. So again, you'll each have 5 minutes to speak. Questions are directed to the board. The applicant will be listening. We'll have time to rebut anything that you have or any questions that you may have. They will be able to address at that time. Then when we're all done, the applicant will come back up to speak on anything they heard. And then after that, again, as I spoke earlier, only one in person out of the people who speak in opposition to the plan will have the ability to come back up. So if there needs to be some time taken to figure out who might want to do that, if anybody wants to do that, I certainly will give you a little bit of time to decide that, a few minutes. So that's going to be the process. Again, feel free to come up and speak whatever you'd like to say, but if you feel that something's already been said, you can just mention that, you know, it's already been said, so you don't have to repeat it. We have video and voice recordings, so everything is on the record. Everything that's been submitted to staff is part of the record at this point. So just wanted to just lay that out. Okay? So now I will ask if there's anybody here to speak in favor of the application. Come on up, please. Give us your name and address.
Tim Morgan, 169 Daniel Webster Highway. I understand that they're looking for a variance because of multiple structures contained within the same lot. I'm actually kind of excited to see separate houses rather than a bank of townhomes. I think it kind of conforms to the neighborhood a little bit better than, you know, one large structure that might not fit into the natural characteristics. I think they've done a nice job laying it out with the topography, it's gradually sloping, and it's going to be a well-maintained, you know, short private drive.
Any questions? Thank you very much for coming. Anybody else like to speak with questions in favor of the application? Seeing none, I will ask if anybody's here to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application. All right, come on up. And again, we'll just ask that you all give your name and address before you start speaking.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Robert Lembry, 84 Manchester Street. I've lived here for 54 years, moved here in 1969. We lived in a place called Morningside Estates, which was built in our neighborhood, where I've been in the neighborhood for all that time. Morningside Estates was planned out, built by Mayor Claude Nichols back in the late 60s. So I'm a beneficiary of growth in the city. I've seen a lot of changes. There's been good changes, there's been not so good changes, and we roll with it, right? But there are changes that are done within the spirit of the law that protects us all. I had no expectations that this lot was going to remain untouched for my entire life. It's actually in my backyard, so I hope you don't think of me as a NIMBY sort of person. I did expect that it was going to be developed. I felt, though, that it was going to be developed in a way that it was consistent with the neighborhood, and I don't feel that this is. In fact, I think it's very much not consistent with the neighborhood. The idea that they're turning it into a condominium complex so that they can kind of shoehorn everything under one lot and kind of weasel around the spirit of the zoning laws, I think, points to the idea that it's not consistent with the neighborhood. I also find the word relief curious. If you look at the petition, it says they're looking for relief from the laws, essentially. Now, tonight we've heard a lot of testimony about relief, and I think we have genuine relief that's gone on here. People who have trees imperiling their homes, people who need special access to driveways, that sort of thing. That, to me, is relief. That relief comes from people who own property, they live there, they're going to live with the results of any relief that you may or may not give. The petitioners don't live here. They never will live here. They're investors. Their involvement with the neighborhood is limited to protecting and maximizing their investment. There is absolutely no concern whatsoever on behalf of the petitioners where it comes to the well-being of the neighborhood. They're here for investment purposes and to maximize that investment, and I appreciate that. I am very much appreciative of people's need to exercise their property rights. I think that the rules, though, require that you do that within the spirit of the law, and this is what I'm asking you folks to do. The condominium model is absolutely contrary to the public interest of the neighborhood, and realistically, everything they're asking you is to maximize their investment. They purchased the property that had a lot of empty space on it. They said, what can we do to maximize the return on investment? And this is the answer. The answer here is all about maximizing that return on investment. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the well-being of the neighborhood. The greatest impact to your decision is going to be to people like myself who have lifelong investment in the neighborhood, and a lot of other people who are going to speak behind me. When we talk about the development that's going to go on there, I think that they can work without a variance. They won't be able to get as much money back from their investment as they want. They can put a second home on that property. They may even be able to put a third on there without going dramatically against the nature of the neighborhood. And so I would ask that you, when you look at substantial justice, which seems to be a key word, it needs to lie with the people that are in the neighborhood who have the longest and greatest investment in the neighborhood. So I'd ask that you consider substantial justice from the perspective of the people who will be impacted the greatest, and those are the existing neighbors. Thanks very much.
Any questions? Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks.
Next person that wants to come up, and come on up.
Good evening. I'm Brian Goulet. I live at 10 Sherman Street. Opposed to the condominium project. I don't think that it conforms or is consistent with the surroundings at all. I think that they're all squeezed in there. They're a lot closer than the rest of the neighborhood. Certainly not consistent with the RA zoning of 7,500 square feet per single unit or home. As a condominium project, it's the word condominium project, I guess, is not consistent with that area at all. There have been other condominium projects proposed in the area that have been shot down, and for instance, what is it? The one off of Manchester Street was to be condominiums, and now it's single-family homes, which is much more fitting with the area. What else? The condominium project is going to have its own road access, but I don't see any room there or anything for a dumpster, probably. Snow removal, storage. I don't know where they're going to put the snow in the summertime, or the wintertime, that is. And no green, no green area. I know that is also usually a concern as far as the amount of green area per lot. I think the granting of the variance will conflict with public interest and the essential character of the neighborhood. What else do we got here? I would consider this to be a high-density project. There's certainly, I know that they say that they're within the high density of the total project, but each individual unit puts it out of that range, I believe. They say there's significant buffering. I guess I don't see that either. I think that the proposed use is not in the spirit of the ordinance, as the minimum lot size, again, like I said, is 7,500 square feet in the RA area. And it's all single-family homes now. As far as subdivisions, I think that was brought up that the lot itself could be subdivided rather than turned into a condominium project. That is consistent with the area, because there are a lot of subdivided lots in the area. We have one on Edith that was done not too long ago. We have another one on Cox Street that was not done too long ago. Fits right in with the neighborhood. The lots were large enough that they could be subdivided, and you get two nice homes. As far as, the need for housing, yep, we need housing. But, you know, to do something like that, I think that that's going to affect the value of the homes in the area. I was talking to realtors, and they said that anything that's built that is dissimilar to the buildings in the area will probably reduce the value of the homes.
1 minute.
1 minute. So I guess, where do I want to end this? I think you do have all of my, what I proposed or sent in for a letter. I'm just kind of jumping around, touching on things to keep in the so in closing, I guess, I respectfully ask the zoning board members to vote against the proposed project. I just don't think it's in keeping with the neighborhood itself, the character of the neighborhood. I think it will indeed change the character of the neighborhood without a doubt. It's a quiet neighborhood, safe, not a lot of traffic. This will certainly add more traffic to the neighborhood. And I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much for coming.
Okay.
Anybody else like to speak in opposition?
Hello. My name's Elizabeth Whalen. I live at 17 Beauview Ave, and I've been blessed to live there for a little over 20 years. And we do not agree with this proposal. We do think this will be a negative impact on our neighborhood. It's a fantastic neighborhood, but I do, as the others previously stated, think this is a fantastic place for some homes to go into, for some families to raise their kids and have a great atmosphere. When you look at the land that they want to develop, to put that many homes in that small lot does not match anything in our neighborhood at all. And I do think there is some safety concerns where it's not going to be a public street. How do people get out? Somebody pulls down accidentally. How do they turn around? Where do they turn around? There are some concerns there. People on Sherman Street, what are they going to do now where there's no on-street parking? Everybody's going to park now on that side of the street. It's just going to create issues that can be avoided if the right amount of homes go on this land. We agree that new construction typically does have a positive impact on surrounding properties, and at times, in our opinion, it does not. When a developer suggests overcrowding a lot just for the sake of selling more homes, does that not improve things? Does that improve things? It looks cramped and not well thought out for the neighborhood. Not to repeat everything that you just heard from the two people before me, but they purchased the lot knowing that there were some things not right with it. So why is it that we as existing residents who have been there for 20+ years need to accept what they're proposing? Why can't they adjust to what would work within the zoning? Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much for coming. Yes, come on up.
My name is Ann Kaminsky, and I live at 19 Beauview Avenue, and I'm an abutter of the proposed property. My husband and I moved to Nashua almost 5 years ago because we felt it was a place we'd like to be retired. We had tried Florida, and that didn't work well. And I've always loved New Hampshire and wanted to come up and spend our retirement years here. One thing that we really enjoy is sitting out on our back deck. It's so peaceful. It's just a really nice time for us to be able to relax and enjoy our yard. One of the proposed units is, and I believe number 11 on his list, is just about 10 feet away from our fence, and our backyard isn't deep. So this is going to be right in our face. And it's just very disconcerting, very disappointing. And I hope you will take not only the proposed plans and if they're in order, but the neighborhood itself and what we have come to really enjoy. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much for coming.
And my name is Frank Kaminsky. I live at 19 Bowview Avenue. And like my wife just says, our property abuts right next to this property that they're proposing to put house lots. When they start disturbing the soil, I'm going to breathe the dust in the air, and I'm sure it's going to come right to our yard. We, like I said, we abut that property. There'll be no concern over noise, anything, air pollution or anything like that. I do have a little asthma, and I'm sure that's going to bother me when they start disturbing the soil, and I've got to breathe that dust. It'll force me to stay inside all the time while they're constructing out there. And I hope you would consider in not approving this construction and building out there. Thank you.
Any questions? No. Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Come on up, give us your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Lynn Knoll. I live at 26 Bowview Avenue. I've lived there since 1990. For 40 years I've lived there. My house is a 1929 bungalow. I absolutely love our neighborhood. We have older homes from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and this would really disturb the character of our neighborhood. So thank you.
Any questions? Thank you for coming. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Come on up. Give us your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Fillion. I live at 3 Sherman Street. Our property is right against this property. We've always loved having all these woods next to our house. We know that it's going to be developed. We have young children. We enjoy watching the squirrels in the yard and the bunnies and the foxes, and just once all that's gone, we don't know where those animals are going to go. And with all the traffic, I have to worry about my children who like to fly down the hill because we do live on an incline. And it is a dead end at the end of our street. So we're not really a cut-through street, so it is really quiet. I feel safe when my children are near the street. My older child, I'm okay with him being in the street because I know people aren't going to be there. Also, when we get a lot of snow and rain, that property floods right near our fence line, and I've seen it for years. So once they start building that up, I'd like to know where all that water's going. So I'm a little concerned about that coming into my property. But more so, it's just too much. I moved there 11 years ago for my kids to be in the Charlotte Ave district, before that neighborhood, first and foremost. So it's really for my kids, for their just generations of people enjoying this area. And putting this in my yard, I mean, I have a screened-in porch that's literally on the fence line. I'm like 5 feet from the fence line. A house right there is going to be right into my screened-in porch. We can't be out there without thinking that our neighbors are going to be staring at us. And I'm also worried about the snow removal. Where is it going to go? And I understand people need houses, but let's be real. Do you think these houses are going to be less than $500,000? I don't really know many people with children that are going to move into this neighborhood for less than $500,000. It's not really realistic. But 2 houses, all right. Thank you.
Any questions? Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Come on up, give us your name and address, please.
My name's Gary Wingate, and I'm at 15 Sherman Street. My wife Brenda and I have lived there since 1984. I was born and raised in Nashua. Went to local schools, went off to college, went off to do some career things, and moved back in 1984. In 1984, we bought the Sirwa house at 15 Sherman Street. We had a nice lot, and we added on to that, et cetera, et cetera. But basically, the only reason why these people are here tonight is to get a variance so they can go to the next phase. They want to go to the planning board and start getting some information that we don't know yet. Things like how many floors are going to be, what's going to be the square footage of it. I didn't even know about this until 2 days ago. So I promptly went onto your website and I looked at what they needed to do. And what I found is that they have to have 5 different guiding principles. And as I read these, the biggest continuing guiding principle is it says it must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Our neighborhood, if you look at an aerial view, there's one principal residence, per lot, and it's just the whole neighborhood's like that. And to come in here with 5 units in 0.8 acres of very dense housing with a road going in is not going to fit the neighborhood. We love all our neighbors, but it's going to create a lot of noise, and that's going to be a big impact. There's going to be new voices. A lot of people have pets, children, driving. It doesn't fit with the neighborhood. So when I went over this, and I just want to kind of go over that, the first thing they have to pass, it must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. In number 2, it says it must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Number 3, no substantial justice should be done. And then the last one talks about you must establish that the special conditions of the property cause the proposed use to be reasonable. The use must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. But in their rebuttals to those questions, in the first one they said, well, the density of this 5-unit single-family condominium project will be consistent with the surrounding and needs of the neighborhood. It's not true. Having 5 properties, principal properties on 0.8 acres is nothing like we have in the rest of that area. In number 2, they say we're going to rejuvenate the property. It's going to be consistent with the surroundings. The proposed layout will be in harmony with the neighborhood. I mean, it's almost like poetry. They're just giving these words to make it sound wonderful, but the net, it's not. They're not really getting at the bones of what we want to make a positive decision. We know, the density is not the thing we want. In number 3, substantial justice to be granted. And they go on saying there'll be no harm to the general public, and then, in the last part, they talked about, the proposed use is compatible and in harmony with the surrounding and literal enforcement by the regulations. There's no unnecessary hardships. None of these are true. I don't feel anything, that you can stick your teeth into to make that. So I think the most practical thing is just to leave it the way it is. The house itself is big. If you look at the frontage of that property, it covers maybe 3/4 of the road. And they have a little space on the side, which is grass, which really could be a driveway, which I'd be for, with a garage, which I'd be for. But to put a road in doesn't make sense. So the big house there with 4 other units, that density doesn't make sense. And then they want to make a condo association out of it. That is nothing like what the character of the neighborhood is. I've already been through that. I bought a Paddington Place. We had 10 abutters on Paddington Place. We've come here 3 times in that one project. They tried to put in density housing, and after a pleasant argument back and forth, they did not pass that. Then they wanted to do senior living. They wanted to put in 55 and over. And after going back and forth, that did not fit into the neighborhood. So we've already seen the condo associations and the density housing, but that's not what the area needs. So anyway, I just, myself and everybody here in our neighborhood respects our neighborhood. We are not against development at all, but we want tasteful development, and we don't want to have this kind of development. It doesn't really fit the character of our neighborhood. So I would really appreciate if you would, in concert with our neighborhood, be sensitive to us as a neighborhood of what we do, and to and not allow a variance. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you for coming. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Come on up.
Hello. My name is Meng Zhang. I live at 15 Beauville Avenue. I'm relatively new to this neighborhood. I moved in 2014, so new compared to my neighbors. So I agree with what my neighbors have said. I just have one thing to highlight. I think based on my research, the property in question is at the heart of one of the 2 RA zoning districts in Nashua. And I believe the zoning regulations were carefully crafted to preserve the characters of this historic neighborhood. And granting this variance would set a concerning precedent, in my opinion, potentially opening the door to future zoning deviations that would undermine the very reasons that make this neighborhood unique and desirable. That being said, we recognize the importance of development and growth. We like to see new people move in and share the community with them. In fact, I really appreciate all the embracing welcome my neighbors gave me when I first moved here as a new immigrant. I can totally relate to people wanting to move to this community. That's why we're open to the subdivision of this property as long as the current zoning regulations are being adhered to. Actually, my house was subdivided from a lot that used to belong to 11 Beauvue, I believe. That's all. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you for coming. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Okay. We have, I'm going to just summarize communications that we've
Mr.
had.
Chair?
Oh,
Maybe there's someone on Zoom.
okay.
Want to speak in the?
I don't see any hands raised.
Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to speak in opposition?
No, apparently not.
Are we good to move on?
I think so.
Okay. I'm just going to summarize communications that we've gotten, that we received in opposition for the application. Again, these are all public record, so again, I'm just going to summarize, but they are part of our public record. So Michael and Elizabeth Whalen of 17 Beauvue Ave in opposition. Brian Goulet of Brian Goulet and Patricia Goulet of 10 Sherman Street. We also have a petition that was signed, a neighborhood petition. Again, there are 25 signatures on this petition from that area: Sherman Street, Beauvue Ave, Manchester Street, Charlotte, Sheridan, and Edith Ave. And again, this is part of the public record, so again, in opposition to this plan. And I think that's all we have, correct? Okay. All right, sir, you have 5 minutes to come back and present your rebuttal. Can you just give your name and address for the record?
Yep. For the record, my name is Chris Gaida with Fieldstone Land Consultants, doing business at 206 Elm Street in Milford, New Hampshire. I certainly understand all the comments made by the abutters. You know, we all live in neighborhoods too. These are going to be, or proposed to be, anything that gets developed here is also going to be homes. Condominiums these are single units. There's no difference between the outside when you look at that home as a condominium versus a single-family home on a separate lot. The condominium aspect is really just another way to develop without having to go through extensive subdivision processes, creating town roads, and those aspects. We talked a little bit earlier about the setbacks, rear setbacks versus side setbacks. These homes here, again, are not set in stone. They are simply conceptual homes. They can be adjusted on size, they can be moved. If the board feels that it's appropriate to apply a rear setback to the side, that's something that could certainly be looked at and have adjustments made. Again, there's a lot of talk about the density. What we're requesting is really just an allowance to have more than one principal structure on the lot. It could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5. Again, those are issues that kind of come up with the planning board phase. So this could be 2. So we're really, it's not necessarily 5, but again, we didn't want to be disingenuous and present something to the board that says, you know, we're really only looking at one additional dwelling. This would be a maximum usage for the lot. We understand that, which is why we presented this plan. That very well may not be the final development plan. The planning board may want to see some other aspects here, some different homes, some additional buffers, plantings, a lot of those aspects that were brought up tonight and concerns. Our Nashua is very good at addressing all these and being very thorough, so I'm sure all those concerns would be addressed. Again, I would just want to stress that this is not necessarily the final proposed development. This is simply, we're requesting a variance to allow for more than one primary or principal dwelling on the lot. Mr. Becker would also like to say a few words as well.
Procedurally, I don't think we can allow that because he never testified to begin with. Nope. So we can't.
Okay.
And I apologize, but that's the rules that we have to follow, the bylaws.
Okay.
Okay.
I do have a question for...
Are you all set with your rebuttal?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Lionel.
I would like to remind you that the application in front of us is 4 new detached single-family units proposed, not more than 1. So what we're being asked to approve is 5 total units.
I just want to reread, just check here.
At least that's what it says on the summary.
On the variance requested on the application, it says to permit more than one principal structure on a lot to facilitate a residential condominium community of 5 single-family detached units.
Right. So, I mean, the more than one is because the ordinance says you can only have 1, but the request was to put 5.
I don't think that was the intent of, I mean, the intent is for more than 1 because that's the regulation, is my understanding.
Well, we deal with this a lot.
Mr. Falk, can we just have a clarification on the planning department's position on an application of this type and how it's advertised and what they're asking for?
Well, it may say more than 1, but we have a pretty clear plan here that shows 5. It's 5. If they wanted 2 or 3, they probably should have shown 2 or 3.
So again, just for clarification, you heard that planning board. What we are accustomed to seeing and what we usually would see, in our minds right now, we're looking at a plan that can be up to 4 additional units on our lots for a total of 5. So what we're approving is the maximum of what you're asking for. If you were looking at doing something of a lesser degree, that could change completely the scope of this project and how we look at it, what we're considering, for ourselves, and we each have our own opinions on that. So a plan in front of us that would show that what it would look like with just 2 units on it, or 3 units, that is what we would see. But we can't, we are not engineers by trade to do this kind of work. So we're not gonna sit here and try to put stipulations on what a side setback should be, not knowing how that's gonna fit, and it's too open. We don't have the scope of that. You follow what I'm saying?
I do.
So it's really difficult for myself. I won't speak for the rest of the members. It's difficult for myself. And when you say, that's great, you said that maybe we only want to put 2 additional units on a lot. Well, that layout, I can imagine what it would look like, but I don't know exactly what it would look like and how that would look and how that would impact and how that would work. That's a completely, to me, different a request than this request in front of us. Follow what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Okay? Any other questions? Okay, thank you. All right, so, again, like I spoke earlier, if those in opposition want to speak, we'll allow one person for 5 minutes. If you need to take a minute to decide who's going to talk and what you're going to talk about in rebuttal here, if you need a minute, let me know. Other than that, if you already know who's going to come up, come on up, but again, only one person for 5 minutes.
And they don't have to.
And you don't have to. You don't have to come up. It's not necessary. So, sir, you'll have 5 minutes. And again, just your name and address for the record, please.
Brian Goulet, 10 Sherman Street. Getting back to the conversation that you just had, as far as the application itself, the application itself clearly states that it's a condominium community of 5 units. It doesn't say anything about anything less than that, and it also, from what I see here, the variance is for a condominium community. We're not talking about a single 2, 3, it's different than what we in the neighborhood are talking about in subdividing the lot into 2, possibly 2 at most, homes, which would fit the neighborhood, be in character with the neighborhood, would not add, an excessive amount of traffic, noise, be a safe, it would remain a safe neighborhood with 2 at most homes, not a condominium community, but 2 homes on a subdivided lot, like happens all the time in that neighborhood. And getting back to the setback, I guess I have a question.
Can you speak in the mic, please?
Oh, excuse me. As far as the setback you were talking about, are you talking about back here?
No.
No?
There's been talk about the side setback because it's one lot. The
Yeah.
applicant looks at it from the front of the street. which-
So
yeah.
what is it supposed to be? 25 feet?
Well, in this zone, it's, what we call the rear yard setback is 30 feet.
30 feet.
30 feet. And the,
The side would be 10. and the
side is 10. This is my neighborhood, so I know what the setbacks are.
Mhm.
And there seems to be a disagreement as to whether construction of new units with backs of the houses facing what's currently the side of the lot,
Mhm.
Whether or not that changes the requirement to that be a rear yard setback.
Right.
And I believe it does. The applicant believes it doesn't, so. But
So
that's the question there.
So with 2 units, they could certainly put 2 units on that lot
Yes, that would.
without,
That would not violate the setback requirements.
right. But in any case, the variance that they're looking for is for a condominium community of 5 single-family detached units. And that is what I, including the neighbors in the neighborhood, have opposition to and request or would ask respectfully that you deny the variance. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. So, my feelings on this case is again, it's clear to me from both the applicant and the folks that came into that there is no, there is the idea that this lot would be developed at one point of view, and that's what the applicant's trying to do. I understand the discussion on the side setback, you know, how they look at the lot. I don't know exactly, you know, dive deep into the, exactly what our codes say, but I think, again, the proposed 5-unit, and that's what we're looking at. If there certainly was a proposal for a lesser impact, whatever that would be, it could still not be, you know, some of us may not agree with, but a lesser impact may change the whole scope of what we're thinking, or what I'm thinking, but what's in front of me is the 4 new units with the existing home. So I find that, I find the impact to the neighborhood, to the character of the neighborhood, high, and I also believe that there is another way to achieve developing this property. I certainly believe that there is some way to do this in a different way, that is something that I could support. But right now, the way I'm thinking right now is I don't see where I can support this application. Mr. Lionel?
Yeah, as I said earlier, this is my neighborhood. I live a few streets away. My son went to Charlotte Avenue School. I've lived there since 1989. There are some things that the opponents talked about that are not our consideration. Things such as noise and dust of construction. Well, it doesn't matter, you know, whether they, you know, if they subdivide and build another house, you're going to get some noise and construction, and that's temporary. There was a concern about water runoff. The city regulations say that any development of a property cannot increase water runoff onto other properties. Things such as snow removal and dumpster placement and fire trucks, that's something the planning board would get into, not us. We do look at whether there are special conditions of the property such that the benefit sought cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible other than the variance. Well, you know, we've certainly had lots of testimony that there are other ways to develop this lot that are less intensive. We do get applications like this frequently. And by the way, the fact that it's a condominium community doesn't really matter as far as we're concerned. But I do believe that this development as proposed is not in character with the neighborhood. I know the neighborhood well, and I believe it definitely would diminish the property values of surrounding parcels. I would encourage the owner to investigate less intensive ways of developing this property. Everybody seems to be in agreement that development is inevitable, as it is through almost all the infill lots in Nashua. We get applications almost every meeting for that. So I do not support this application in its present form.
Mr. Mancaro?
I also can't find support for this application, really for a few reasons, many of which have been stated. But so first of all, the overall density that's proposed here exceeds the density that's allowed in the underlying zone. The only way that you could come close to achieving the density of the underlying zone is by including the common area within each individual lot, which of course it isn't. So it not only exceeds the density of what's allowed in the underlying zone, or in the zoning ordinance, I shouldn't say underlying, but it clearly exceeds the density of the surrounding neighborhood. You're probably looking at 3.5 of you know, the homes or the lots in the surrounding area. The issue of setbacks has been brought up a few times, and accepting that the setbacks that they're showing are accurate because it is a single lot. I'm not conceding that, I'm just saying given, even if that were so, if this were a conventional subdivision, they would have to meet the side and rear and front setbacks for each individual lot. And that's not possible with this number of homes on the lot, but that's why the impacts are so significant on surrounding properties. It's because you are, in effect, using a a side setback to the rear of the home. That's what's putting the rear of these homes directly, within 10 feet of the neighbors. And that's an undue impact, I believe, on the surrounding areas. So because the density is out of character with the surrounding area, and because the way the homes are designed and laid out is inconsistent with the surrounding area, and I think it exceeds what's reasonable on the property, I can't support the application.
Mr. Neely?
This reminded me of a recent case we had about 75 Manchester. When you look back, when it's 75 Manchester, the discussion, a similar proposal was thrown out there a few years ago. It was found that it was too dense for that area. It came by this board, they found it too dense. And it was very interesting that as we approved 75 Manchester not too long ago, really the blueprint for what I believe should happen here was there. They basically took a look at it and said, hey, we tried to jam too much into a small area. It was not consistent with the neighborhood. And let's subdivide the lot, which we all think is appropriate, but let's do it for less density. I found it very interesting tonight that 5 of the folks in opposition came up tonight and said that they believe that this property should be subdivided, just not this many units. So I think it's quite clear that the neighborhood is not opposed to a subdivision here and adding some more housing. We all know that Nashua needs more housing. However, this is just too dense when you look at this neighborhood. I really don't think it's going to bring extra traffic. For the most part, it's going to be a few cars here or there. But really, you just look at the layout of the neighborhood, and to have this many units in that 0.8 of an acre is not in character with the neighborhood. And I do not believe that would positively affect the real estate value of the surrounding homes. And so for those reasons, I'm not in favor of this application.
Okay, anybody would like to make a motion? Mr. Lionel?
Make a motion for owner Principessa Realty Partners, LLC. Applicant is Josh Becker, B&A Property Preservation, LLC, address 7 Sherman Street, sheet 59, lot 9. Requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 19017B to exceed maximum number of principal structures allowed per lot, 1 permitted, 4 new detached single-family units proposed with 1 existing for a total of 5 single-family detached homes on 1 lot. This is in the RA zone in Ward 2. The board believes that this variance is not appropriate for the applicant's proposed use of the property. There are no special conditions of the property, and we believe that the benefit sought by the applicant to develop this property can be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue. The board believes this is not within the spirit and intent of the ordinance, which is to maintain a neighborhood feel consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. The board believes, and we have testimony from abutters, that it will adversely affect property values of surrounding parcels. The board believes this is contrary to public interest. Substantial justice to the applicant might be served, but because the other points of law are not met, we feel I make a motion to deny this area variance.
Seconded by Mr. McCara, and a discussion. Take a roll. Mr. Neely?
Mr. Neely votes in favor of the motion to deny.
Mr. McCara?
Mr. McCara votes in favor of the motion to deny.
Mr. Lionel?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor of the motion to deny.
Myself, Mr. Boucher, also votes in favor of the motion to deny. Sorry, your application has been denied. Again, there is a 30-day window of appeal. Thank you for coming. With that, I'll close the public meeting for case number 9. Folks, the meeting is continuing on, so if you want to have any discussion, please have that out in the hallway, please. You still have some business to take care of. Thanks for coming. Folks, excuse me. Folks. Thanks. Okay, thanks for coming. Have a good night. All right, so we have some meeting minutes from August 22nd. Does anybody see any issues with the meeting minutes?
No, looks fine to me.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the August 22nd, 2023 meeting minutes.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lionel. Any discussion? Mr. Neely?
Mr. Neely votes in favor of the motion.
Mr. McCarron?
Mr. McCarr votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
And Mr. Boucher votes in favor. Okay, we also have an agenda for next meeting. Does anybody see any regional impact? There's 4 cases.
I do not.
And no one sees anything there? Okay. No impact. Any other business that anybody needs to talk about? Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair,
Oh, yes, Mr. Falk.
I believe for other business, Mr. Mancara may have an exciting announcement to make.
Oh, I'm a full member at this point. Hopefully you got the memo.
No, we did not get the memo, but congratulations.
Congratulations.
We actually got the alderman to meet and approve it.
I guess so.
We knew you looked different when you walked in. Yeah, a little taller.
Congratulations. Would you like to close the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion accepted.
8:39.
We're adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.